Friends, someone once said something truly remarkable. People can take something out of your hands, but they cannot take away what's meant for you by destiny. The story I'm about to share today is profound and filled with valuable lessons. I hope you'll stay with me until the end. Welcome to Buddha the Untold, where we share stories that inspire and make you reflect on life. In life, your real companions aren't the ones who show up in photos, but the ones who stand by you in tough times. Everyone's heart beats in its own way, and no two people's behavior is alike. Though we all have similar eyes, our perspectives differ. People say that life is meant to be lived on your own terms, yet every morning, many of them set out living by someone else's. Our minds often tell us to treat people the way they treat us. But then our hearts whisper, if we become like them, what difference will there be between us and them? Once upon a time, there lived a well-respected scholar named Professor Andrew Thompson. He was a celebrated author, known for his deep insights and wisdom. His books were revered by intellectuals and even royalty. But in the midst of his success, Professor Thompson had one failing. He was too absorbed in his work to pay attention to his only son, Jake. Andrew's wife often expressed her concerns. Do you even care about Jake? You're so lost in your writing that you forget you have a son. Andrew would respond, I don't have time for such feelings. His standing in the intellectual community was so high that even the king had asked him to be his advisor. But Andrew always declined, saying, if I serve the court, I will have to flatter you, which I refuse to do. While Andrew was immersed in his scholarly pursuits, Jake, left unchecked, fell into bad company. Instead of attending school, Jake began gambling and drinking with some dubious friends. Little did his father know, his beloved son was on a dangerous path. One night, Jake and his friends decided to rob a local church. But they were caught in the act by a guard and taken straight to the king. When the king heard that one of the thieves was Andrew Thompson's son, he was shocked. How could the son of such a wise and honorable man commit theft? He asked. A soldier was sent to inform Andrew of his son's crime. Your son has been caught stealing in the church, the soldier reported. Andrew was devastated. What a disgrace. How can I face anyone now? His wife pleaded, the king respects you deeply. If you go and ask for forgiveness, maybe Jake will be spared. But Andrew was firm. I will not ask for forgiveness for a criminal. That would be a betrayal of my principles. His wife, overwhelmed with despair, threatened, if you don't go to the king, I will end my life. Reluctantly, Andrew went to the palace. Standing before the king, he humbly asked for mercy. Your Majesty, my son is young and reckless. Please forgive him. The king replied sternly, I will forgive him, but only if you publicly apologize for his actions in front of the entire court. With a heavy heart, Andrew agreed, and Jake was spared. But even after being pardoned, Jake didn't change his ways. Instead, he began selling his father's books for money. One day, Andrew noticed his manuscripts missing and asked Jake, where are my books? Jake replied nonchalantly, I got rid of the clutter. Angry and heartbroken, Andrew cried, you've ruined everything. But Jake remained indifferent. Soon, Andrew's health began to deteriorate, the weight of his son's behavior taking a toll. Even as he grew weaker, Andrew devoted himself to completing one final manuscript, determined to finish it before his time ran out. When it was done, Andrew called Jake to his bedside. Son, he said, this book is my legacy. Take care of it. It's the most valuable thing I have to give you. But Jake, uninterested in his father's wisdom, thought to himself, what good is this to me? I could have used some money instead. The very next day, Andrew passed away. With no money and no father to guide them, Jake and his mother found themselves in dire straits. Desperate, his mother urged him to find work, but Jake, uneducated and known as a troublemaker, was turned away wherever he went. One day, Jake's mother, in a last-ditch effort, went to the king, pleading for help. But the king, remembering Andrew's rejection of his offers, refused. In the months that followed, Jake wandered aimlessly. He had his father's manuscript with him, but it was nothing more than paper to him. One day, while resting under a tree in a forest, a gust of wind blew some of the pages away. Jake barely noticed as they flew into the hands of a passing Prince William, who had been hunting in the woods. Curious, Prince William opened the page. Though he didn't understand the old language, he sensed its importance. He tucked the page into his pocket and continued his journey. Soon, the prince came upon a strange temple deep in the forest, where a group of people were preparing a ritual. As he approached, He realized they were preparing to sacrifice a young man to appease their god. Horrified, William tried to reason with them, but they captured him instead, deciding to make him the sacrifice. Before they could carry out the ritual, William made a final request. "Before you sacrifice me, can someone read this page and explain its meaning?" The priest took the page and began to read aloud. "A lie begets many lies, and the one who lives by deceit will eventually be ensnared by it. It is easy to take a life, but to give life is the hardest of all." As the words echoed through the temple, the people hesitated. "These words are wise," one of the villagers said. "Perhaps we are wrong in our actions." They released the prince, and the sacrifice was called off. Prince William, deeply moved, realized the power of the words on that page. Upon returning to his kingdom, he told the king about the incident and showed him the page. The king declared, "Whoever finds the rest of these writings will be richly rewarded." Meanwhile, Jake, now penniless and alone, continued to wander, unaware of the king's decree. Finally, after weeks of struggle, Jake arrived in the capital city, looking for work. Starving and desperate, he snuck into the royal kitchen to steal some bread, but he was caught and dragged before the king. As Jake was brought into the throne room, Prince William recognized him. "Your Majesty," William exclaimed, "this man holds the key to the wisdom we seek." The king was intrigued. Jake, unaware of the value of his father's manuscript, handed it over. The king, after reading the manuscript, was deeply impressed. "This is priceless wisdom," he said. "Your father was a great man, and his work will be preserved for generations." In recognition of his father's legacy, the king pardoned Jake and gave him a chance to turn his life around. Jake, filled with remorse, vowed to honor his father's memory by learning from the very wisdom he once ignored. He finally understood the true value of his father's teachings and set out on a path to redemption. The moral of the story is that the wisdom and values passed down to us often hold the key to our redemption. Sometimes, it takes losing everything to truly realize what's important in life. If you liked the video, then give a thumbs up to the video and subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. Thank you. Namo Buddha.